Frankie was a little under the weather. So.
Well, this weather will put you under the weather.
Well, for sure.
Good afternoon and welcome to a special day. We usually meet on Mondays. It's Tuesday because of Veterans Day yesterday. And we welcome those of you in our council chambers and also on our Electric City Television. Invocation tonight will be given by Councilmember Don Chapman. Respective flags to be led by Councilman Jeff Roberts. Please rise.
Before I give the prayer, I'd like to say a little something about Veterans Day. Veterans Day was originated as Armistice Day on November 11th, 1919, the first anniversary of the end of the World War I. Congress passed a resolution in 1926 as an annual observance, and November 11th became the national holiday beginning in 1938. Unlike Memorial Day, Veterans Day pays tribute to the American veterans, living or dead, but especially gives thanks to the living veterans who have served their country honorably during war and peacetime. And just a couple of quick facts about Veterans Day for the young folk out there that may be watching. There were 16.1 million living veterans who served at least one war. 5.2 million veterans served in peacetime. 2 million veterans are women. 7 million veterans served during the Vietnam War. 5.5 million veterans served during the Persian Gulf War. And 16 million Americans served World War II. 6 million veterans served during peacetime, with 2 million serving during the Korean War. And the military men and women who served and to protect the United States of the United States of America come from all walks of life. They are parents, children, grandparents, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. They are an important part of our community, and we want to give thanks to them.
Right.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we gather here on Tuesday so that we were able to observe Veterans Day on Monday, for all those to remember our military veterans for their service and sacrifice to our country, protecting us as well as our freedoms. As we pray for our veterans, we thank them for their service. We also pray for all the men and women currently serving, both far and near, for our country and in our armed forces, so that we are able to gather here tonight. Locally, we pray for and give thanks for our police officers and firefighters as they protect our city each day. We also give thanks for each city department as they work to serve our community, and we ask that we pray for their safety each day. And now, Father, as we ask for your guidance of our management team as well as this council, that all we may say and do be in the best interest of our citizens, our city, but most of all may be pleasing in your eyes. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of our October 22nd meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or to those minutes?
Move they be adopted.
Well, first by Mr. Lockridge, second by Dr. Thompson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of October 22nd pass unanimously. Well, one item of old business, and that item is request second reading of Ordinance 18-17, consenting to placement of real property into a multi-county industrial park and approving a credit agreement with JB Ferguson Properties, LLC, and estate planning consultants and other related matters. Ms. McCully.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've talked before about economic development and the economic development business that the city is in these days, we're looking more times than not lately at our ability to use tools that previously we've not had at our disposal. Fortunately for for us and for developers who are interested in new incentives and new tools for economic development. We found a new partner in Anderson County with the ability to utilize the multi-county industrial business park idea. And even though you've heard this before, David is going to share with you kind of a recap of what we've talked about previously concerning the properties in the 400 block directly across from City Hall on South Main, as well as what we refer to as the Palmetto Building, which faces on Murray Avenue. David?
Thank you, Ms. McConnell, City Council. This ordinance here is similar to one we have done before with the economic development project involving the hotel. And it allows us to consent to the particular project, in this case being referred to as Palmetto Building and the 400 block South Main Street across from City Hall, to be placed in what is known as a multi-county industrial park. And what that does is provide access to certain tax incentives by state statute, and those are local property taxes where the incentive abatements are coming into play. To do so requires really the county's initiation of that. In some cases, that may be a project that's before us that we put a request into the county, which was the in sense what we did with the hotel project. In this case, there was a representative for the property owners, and they moved straight forward with Anderson County, who had to pass 3 readings to place it in the multi-county park, and then that pitches it over to a partner county. And in this case, the partner county is Greenville County. So Greenville County has to pass 3 readings of an ordinance as well to place it into the park, and they're on their 3rd reading and 3rd and final reading on that as well. If it is in the city, what happens is we also have to consent to the placement into the multi-county park. So it really takes 3 governmental bodies to do this. And this is 2nd reading of an ordinance to do just that, is to place it in the multi-county industrial park. And what this allows this project to do, and I'll tell you a little bit about the project that I know you're familiar with, but it is a mixed-use development project. You can see construction underway across from City Hall on the Main Street level for retail, and upper floors will be some residential components to it. So it's a mixed-use development. And with the Palmetto Building as well, it's also a mixed-use development, and construction is underway there as well. To actually provide the tax incentives, you have to provide a threshold of investment. And then the developer actually has to certify that they have met that threshold development in this case. And so with this project, there is a range for it, and I'll explain the reason for that. But the range of the investment is from $1.5 million to $4.2 million. In this project, even though you have these different buildings, there's a bunch of tax parcels in each one. In the Palmetto Building, each suite is considered a property tax parcel. So to make it a little bit simpler in dealing with the incentives, and instead of just looking at each tax parcel, they grouped them together in what were called developmental units. So there's 8 developmental units. And as each developmental unit is, in essence, it goes under construction and is completed. Upon completion of that developmental unit, say developmental unit number 1 goes under completion, is completed, it will receive a tax abatement, and that tax abatement is really backed into from the original tax value that's on the books, and it takes essentially they're going to go in after it's completed, give it a new tax value because it's increased in value. But what it was originally on the books at that period of time when it started, when it finished construction, is actually what the tax abatement will be based off of, and that will be for 20 years. And what this allows to do, and it's really modeled after essentially what's called the Bailey Bill, which the county can adopt and open up, but this is a version of that, but it just takes a project on each individual basis instead of projects as a whole. But it provides for tax abatement for 20 years from the original value, and really incentivizes the developer to move forward with a project that in some cases is difficult with the financial numbers. And with these two projects being historic buildings, needing a lot of renovation and a lot of work, this is a good incentive package to move forward with, and one that staff recommends moving forward with to assist the developer and many of their renovation and infrastructure needs. And also for us, it means new retail space, new residential space, and buildings being occupied that were once vacant with no activity. So with that, I'll answer any questions, and also a staff recommendation to move forward with this on second reading.
Thank you, sir. I know we had this on our last agenda, and I'll open it up to questions, comments. Dr. Thompson.
Yes, ma'am. I think your question is some of them are being completed. Yes, and so your question is in regard, are they still allowed for the incentive? They are, because what it's looking at is you may be seeing right now one storefront that might be completed, but that storefront is actually part of a developmental group. And so that once that developmental group's completed, which it's not, then the tax abatement will kick in. So it's still eligible, even though you see one storefront or so completed right now.
One.
Well, there's a couple, yes, ma'am. There's a couple, but within a developmental group, you may have 8 parcels. And to give you an example, it's just to make it a little bit easy to manage. In the Palmetto building, there's a bunch of suites. Each you go down a hall, and each office is a suite. Well, in reality of how they did it, that's actually each one's a parcel, because they were owned by taxed differently at one point. So to make it easier, they just group those together. So down the hallway, you would actually have 6 or 7 of those suites grouped together. So when those 6 or 7 suites are developed and completed, it would be eligible for the tax abatement at that time.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chapman.
I have a couple questions, but can you clarify the Article 2, Section 2.1, the last paragraph, where it, if you can kind of clarify, it talks about a date of 2033?
Yes, yep.
Right.
I will find it here, but what it's saying there is, I have it, thank you. What it's saying is that you do want a deadline on it. You don't want this basically be sitting out there forever. So it provides for essentially 3 timeline deadlines that they have to make an investment by. And what it's saying in the first part of that is no developmental unit can be certified, 15 years from now, January 1st, 2033. So 15 years from now, if development units haven't been certified, basically when we say the credit doesn't exist, this opportunity for the credit doesn't exist anymore. In addition to that, it also has that same part of the agreement that within 6 years or by 2024, they must invest $1 million, and with 7 years or 2025, they must invest $1.4 million. And that's just the help of the timeline, but also it does model after the Bailey bill in that it allows for some flexibility there. So let's just say, he completes development of unit number 1 and 2, and then a recession hits. Well, it provides some flexibility and a little bit of time, say, if it's a short recession, to come back and finish some development units and still be eligible for it, but not past 2033.
Okay. And then the last one was the estimated tax implication. If once he's completed this project, the staff normally estimates how much we're offering versus what we're getting paid back, because we typically don't pay out more than we receive, or potentially could receive.
Right, and this one's a little bit different than how we do our EDIs. So in our EDIs, what we look at, the economic development agreements, we look at, how much money have we actually been paid, and then we won't pay out any more than what we have received. And in this case, there's a tax bill regardless, and so it's based off the abatement of the tax bill. So there is money coming in, but it is different than the EDI, that it's not looking at the overall, income to us. But what it does say is that you have to have these thresholds, and the state statute says that. So that's why those thresholds of, $1 million and 1.4 million kick in, and ultimately the range of the 1.5 million to 4.2 million. And the state law says you have to have that. You have to meet that threshold. They have to certify that to the county that you've met that investment to qualify for the abatement. And then you also have to meet that timeline. So there's some protection there for that.
So we certainly wish him well and hope that he's successful and there are no recessions in the future.
Yes,
so,
sir.
But obviously he only gets paid back when he actually completes a division of the building.
That's absolutely correct, and he has to certify that to the county.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
I make a motion to approve this, Mayor.
We have a first by Mr. Harbin,
Second.
second by Mr. John Roberts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously on the second and final reading. Moving right along to new business. Our first item of new business is request consideration of an appointment to the Planning Commission. Ms. McCully?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you all know, we have 9 members on the Planning Commission, and from time to time, we have vacancies on that group of volunteers that serves for us each month. We do have a vacancy, and I'd like to call upon Maurice McKenzie, Planning and Development Director, to describe how our seats on that Planning Commission are allocated.
Thank you. As Ms. McConnell mentioned, we have a planning commission that consists of 9 members, and according to the planning commission bylaws, each city council member gets to select a planning commission member, and not seat specific. You can pick someone from anywhere inside the city. And as Ms. McConnell mentioned, we do have a vacancy right now. Jim Harris, who represented Matt Harbin's area, resigned earlier this year, and we have been approached by Steve Lefevre, who has been interested in serving on a city board or commission. He is a local attorney. He lives inside the city, and you can see his application that's attached. You can see more information about that. But yeah, he has expressed interest in serving, so Mr. Harbin does recommend that Mr. Lefevre complete the unexpired term left vacant by Jim Harris, and that expires on June 30th, 2021. And again, his application is included in your packet for more information. So we recommend approval of Mr. Lefevre to serve on the Planning Commission. And that will, the Planning Commission will be full with this selection.
Thank you, sir. Any comments, questions? Mr. Harbin?
Yes. I really appreciate Steve Lefevre for agreeing to serve, and John Roberts helping me recruit him. And with that, I'd like to make a motion we approve him.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
Maurice, do you have the list of the other 9 members? Just curious who they are.
You can put me on the spot and name them off right now.
Can you email them to us?
Oh, absolutely. I'll send you a planning commission, board of zoning appeals, and the board of architectural review.
Just updated list, yeah.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show we appreciate Mr. Lefevre's volunteering, and if we hadn't said it, Mr. Harris' service to our planning commission over the years. Our next item is request consideration to purchase a 311 request and work management software package. Ms. McConnell?
This is a request for a software package that will not only assist our staff in work orders, but it will also assist our citizens in turning work orders in to us. And Mark Cunningham is at the podium and is going to tell you a little bit more about this and what it can do for us and how this is a coordinated effort that I think will help our citizens as far as the city and the county are concerned.
Thank you. What we're asking for tonight is for approval of a 311 request and work management software. It's called C-Click Fix. Currently, for the past 12 years, the city's used a public-facing citizen request software called At Your Request. It's been on our website, it's on our intranet site. We use it internally and externally so citizens can log in. If they see a pothole or whatever, they can put in the work order. It gets routed to the right person, and then it gets taken care of, and they get feedback from that. But like I said, that software is 12 years old. It's never been updated. It doesn't work with any of our existing software that we currently have, and it doesn't have any mobile capabilities. You have to be on a website, on a computer. Well, you can do it from a phone, but it's still not mobile friendly. So whenever we, about 2 years ago, we started implementing Cartograph as our OMS, which is Operations Management System software. That started out in utilities and the water area, and we've migrated that into public works, stormwater. We're getting ready to go into building maintenance and building department, all using that software. That company has partnered with SeeClickFix as their preferred partner for this type of application. They had developed their own app, but they found SeeClickFix, felt it was a better product, and so they've partnered with them. One great advantage to this software is Anderson County is also a Cartograph customer, and they will also be going with SeeClickFix within the next year. The good thing about that, if somebody downloads this app and they see a problem, they put the work order in, it doesn't go to city or county. It knows by the geographic location where it is, and it routes that request accordingly. So a county resident can see a problem in the city. They can open up the app based on the geographic location. It gets routed to the right person. So requests aren't bouncing from one agency to the other, and things don't get lost in the shuffle. The Public Works has been a heavy user of this type of thing, so we really think they'll move forward with that. One of the great things about having the app is whenever we build out the software, the app will have one button for requests. However, there will be many other buttons that we can customize for our own use. So it'll basically be a city app. So the one button will have, make a request, but we can use other buttons to promote city activities or point to our website or to online payments, a lot of other things like that. So we're going to brand it as a new city app, and it'll just have that one portion of being able to request services built in there. So the cost for the software is $12,800. There's the implementation services, which is basically the installation and customization, which is $5,300. That $12,800 is an ongoing cost, annual cost. It is a cloud-based software, so it's not hosted on our systems. It is hosted on theirs. So they take care of all the processing and data storage and backups for us. You can see on the information that we've handed out how we're going to spread out the payment, how we're going to pay for it. Basically, the installation expense of $5,300 will be taken out of city building maintenance, $3,200 out of sewer fund, $3,200 out of water fund, $3,200 out of stormwater, $1,600 out of general fund public works, and $1,600 out of general fund building maintenance. So we think it's a really great solution. It'll work seamlessly with our new software that we're really making a lot of progress with, and we think it's a good move moving forward.
And Council, I'm going to add one more thing to it that Mark didn't mention as a benefit as well. You heard me talk recently at another council meeting during storm events and the efficiencies that we have been working on with response with those. One of the things that we have been working on with the county over the last 3 years in response to emergency events and non-emergency events is that when the 911 center and the non-emergency number is at its peak is during weather-related events. And one of the things that we've been looking at, with not only this app and working with the county is to be able to push this out during storm-related events and say, if you see a tree down or you see an infrastructure issue, instead of calling 911 or the non-emergent number, that you can use your app. A citizen could use the app right then, including our firefighters and volunteer firefighters from outside our jurisdiction, and that information would be received at the emergency operation complex assigned to us, and we would send crews out on a priority basis. So that's another caveat of a way that we're increasing efficiency and how we respond to emergencies through this app as well.
Good, thanks. Any questions, any comments? Mr. Roberts?
One quick question. So it's annual fee. Is there any type of a guarantee or a lock-in period for us for the fee?
That I do not know. That's just what their standard rate is now. I'm sure that as time goes on that it can change.
I have a question.
Ms. Lockridge?
I'm not technically oriented very much, but I do have a question dealing with it. Is there any kind of feedback that the people that use the app, will they be able to get any kind of feedback from the city on whether or not something was done or
Absolutely. As soon as they enter the request in, they'll get a return. It's basically like any other app that you have, you can follow along with it. So they'll have it listed in their requests, and then they can check. It'll give them like a push update, so they'll know to go back in and look and see if there's any changes. So they get notified that it's been accepted, they get a notification that it's been assigned, and then they get a notification if it's been completed. Also, they'll get notified if there's any other activity. So let's say, parts have to be ordered or something like that. They can be informed all along the process.
Very nice.
Good. Ms. Chapman?
So it sounds like a great system for, our citizens to use for, throughout but I guess where I'm more interested in is knowing more about how it relates to our building maintenance of all of our buildings. And does it do scheduled maintenance? Does it do, that's one of the things that I've been
right. This
pushing
app does
forward.
Not do that. However, the Cartograph software does. Which we're moving forward with that. We have training for our building maintenance staff on Cartograph next week.
Okay.
So that software will, and this software will work hand in hand with that. So if someone notices a building maintenance issue as an employee, they can submit the request through the C-Click Fix, which will push it through Cartograph and get it to our folks, and it will track it that way.
Okay. But I guess with that, who would be our building maintenance supervisor that would be going around the buildings and checking to make sure and entering the information to make sure we get everything up and on schedule? We've got a lot of the assets already entered in Cartograph. We're not complete yet, but we've ordered mobile iPads for both of our building maintenance employees, and they will be building that data out. After that's part of their training. Okay, excellent. And so that should be implemented should be actively working by when? Well, the
it's
training
already happening right now.
Yeah, the training is going on right now, and there will be a period of weeks to a couple months to build out assets, and then after that, they should be able to start using the software.
Okay.
Good, thanks. Ms. Stewart?
Can you kind of explain to me, and I heard on the building maintenance side, but how's this going to interact in the building department? Tell me exactly how we're going to use this for like inspections, or, are they going to generate inspections? Are they going to use it for the weed complaints, or?
It'll be the weeds. This won't be used for building inspections. But the citizens, if they see any type of a weed or issue like that, they will be able to go into the software and it'll get routed to the right people.
Well, is it going to be able to track all the various court dates and everything else? Because that's the part, that's why I understand about issuing typical complaints, but building is a little bit different because it gets into court dates and you may be trying to find a landowner or whatever, so how is all that gonna interface into this system?
That won't be a part of this. We have started looking at options for new building department software. Our building department software is very old as well. But we're basically we've looked at a couple different options, but some of the ones that we like have been very expensive, so we're trying to find ones that are a little more reasonable, that do what we need. So that's coming up as well.
Will we not want to wait till we find that software? Because if you get someone trained in this one, then you're going to change it if you find another one
Well,
to a different software.
This will always work independent of that software. And most likely, anything is going to work with Cartograph. Cartograph's a big company. A lot of municipalities use it. And quite honestly, that will probably be a requirement of any new building department software, is that it integrates with Cartograph. And if it integrates with Cartograph, then C-Click Fix will be able to plug right into it.
So just so I understand, under the C-Clip Fix,
Yes.
under the building maintenance, let's just say that we painted City Hall today.
Mm-hmm.
We know that it's got to be painted again 5 years from now. It's going to pop up something in there that says, hey, put this on, this is due for maintenance again 5 years from now.
That'll be in
That's
Cartograph.
Cartograph.
That won't be in C-Click Fix. That's a product we already have and we're just starting to implement.
Cartograph is more asset management oriented,
Right.
where the C-Click Fix is if our air condition is not working, or our toilets are stopped up, or a door doesn't lock, that would be an internal application of how we put in a work order request for that.
But as far as tracking assets and tracking work and repetitive tasks, things like that, that'll all be through Cartograph.
Good. I have one follow-up.
Go right ahead.
So Ms. McConnell, we have how many buildings?
I couldn't tell you right now.
15 or 20? So,
For 20, I would say.
so, but the price that we've been quoted under the building maintenance side, that will cover all of our buildings?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so there's no additional cost for each building or as we
No,
add?
no.
All right, excellent. Well, with that, I make a move that or make a motion that we accept it as presented.
Second.
First by Mr. Chapman, second by Dr. Thompson. Any further discussion? What date do you anticipate the app being ready?
After the first of the year.
First of the year?
Yeah, after the first of the year.
After the first of the year? We're at the end of the year. Ms. Harvey?
Quick question, Mr. Cunningham. You said that, is anything are you gonna be able to pay anything on this app?
I'm sorry, say again?
Pay a bill or anything?
Water bill, ticket bill?
That might be something we do down the road. It would have to integrate with our utility software, our utility billing software, and we haven't even addressed that yet. I doubt if you'd be able to pay it in the app, but we could have a link in the app that would take you to the website where you could pay it.
We obviously, I'm excited about this app. I think it's something great. You can punch on it on your phone and pull up anything in the city, and it'd be neat to be able to put it on there because we want people to go to it.
Absolutely.
And so if it could hit on it and then they hit the water bill and pay.
And citizens are already using it. If you look, you can download the app right now, and you can look and see where people have put in requests, and we don't even have anything to use it with yet. So, people are wanting to use this type of thing.
Thanks.
One last follow-up, and I know we talked about all the various departments, but, in my community meetings that we have once a month, there's a lot of citizen complaints or issues surrounding police issues. Will this app allow somebody to report that there's drug activity at a certain place and then send it to the police department, or if there's prostitution going on, or whatever the case, will it be able to interface with the police department?
Honestly, we never saw anything like that in any of the demos with them, but as long as it's geographically based, so whenever the person puts in the complaint, it knows where they are based on the GPS of the phone. Or if they're not in the location of the complaint, they enter the address in. I don't see why we couldn't do something like that. That might be something after we get it implemented, we add on. And just to talk about implementation a little bit, there will be a process because you've got to build out workflows, and it is very time consuming. So I really can't tell you exact date of implementation, but we have to this type of complaint goes to this department, goes to this person, and then if they don't get it done in a certain amount of time, this supervisor gets notified. So, it's a lengthy process to build out those workflows. So,
Well, good.
we're talking February.
Sounds exciting. Appreciate it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Our next item is request consideration to purchase equipment from the Recreation Department. Ms. McCully?
This is kind of the normal course of business when, from time to time, we bring various equipment needs to you. Certainly, this is for the Recreation Division tonight, and there are two different things that we're asking for. One has to do with replacement mowers. Y'all know that we're certainly in the grass mowing business, and the other has to do with our fitness and wellness program. Tonight, we have Bobby Bevel and Courtney Griffin with us, and Bobby's going to tell you a little bit more about these two requests for hospitality funding.
Thank you, Ms. McConnell. The first request is for our beautification department to replace two mowers that were purchased in 2009 and one in 2010. They have over 2,800 hours on each of them. These are used to mow the city parks, our right-of-ways along the flume, city-owned properties. So they do take a beating kind of thing, especially when we're along the flume and don't see things that may be thrown out there, those kind of things. So one of them has been in the shop a couple times that we have limped along, but with that many hours and how the age of them, it's time to replace them. Our beautification supervisor solicited 3 bids for a 60-inch cut, 0 turn, side discharge, 25 horsepower, 26 RPMs, 1-inch to 5-inch cutting height, and 3 quotes were submitted. Ag Pro, which is a John Deere, $18,511, $38. Anderson Outdoor, which is Exmark, was $20,169.19, and A1 Speed and Sport, which is Cub Cadet, was $20,552. We recommend purchasing 2 commercial grade mowers from Ag Pro for $18,511. The warranty is 36 months or 1,200 hours, whichever comes first. There's no hour limitation in the first 24 hours. The other thing that John Deere has that we like, they have what they call their never stop loaner guarantee. So if we have an issue with one of those and it's down, they have to order a part, can't fix it, they will give us a mower to use while they're working on ours. So our recommendation is to purchase those from Ag Pro.
Let's pause for a second before you go to the next one, Bobby. Any questions on the mowers?
I just have one.
Ms. Chapman?
The Never Stop loaner, is that only during its warranty period? Or is that?
It is not, no.
So we could limp it along forever then?
Well,
I'm just
at some point that during the warranty period, a lot of that stuff is covered.
That's a great opportunity for you then. So.
It is. I mean, and we don't have a lot of spare mowers that we can use, so it does keep us going.
That's it. Thank you.
You notice inside city limits, is that relevant?
All 3 of those vendors are inside city limits, yes, ma'am,
That's the one by, the low bid is the one by the McDonald's on
on Clemson Boulevard.
Clemson Boulevard. Mr. Harvey?
You were speaking about your spare mowers. The other 2 are still operational. Will they be kept for?
They will, yes. One of them for sure. The other one we'll probably put on eGov.
Okay.
We've had it in the shop a few times, and it's just getting to the point that we're spending more than really what it's worth.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to really compliment Grayson for your grass cutting. You ride across the city and you see all the grass looking so nice. Bobby, you're doing a good job with that.
Yes,
They do take a lot of pride in what they do. The second request is for our fitness wellness program. We would like to expand by adding spin bikes. We think by adding spin bikes will create an opportunity to attract new members, offer classes to a younger population, and will create an opportunity for even creating classes for our youth. A lot of our classes are classes that youth would not participate in, especially young men, Zumba, line dancing, those kind of things. So spin bikes do give us an opportunity to try to target kids that may be interested in riding a bike. I've got Courtney with us that she can give you more details on the spin bikes. But our fitness class, as you can see by the write-up, in 2017, October, we were offering 38 classes a week. We are up to 55 classes a week now. You can see the different types of classes that we offer, and we're averaging about 2,250 participants per month. So those are being used. We start at 5:45 in the morning with some of our classes. So it has grown. Some of these classes that are now full, we started with a handful, and people learned what it was all about. We've had more participation. The Rec Center is a member of the National Joint Powers Alliance, which they are the people, we tell them what we're looking for, what kind of bike. They are the ones who solicit the bids and do basically our procurement. So they're the ones who have the leverage. They contact people who have the type bike that we would like. They send us the firm that has the best price of what we're looking for. So Advantage, we recommend purchasing 11 three-course spinner rally indoor cycles in the amount of $22,348 from Advantage Sports and Fitness. Their corporate office is in New York. They do have a representative in Columbia that works this area. The bikes have a warranty frame 10 years, mechanical parts 2 years, labor 1 year, wear items 90 days, console 1 year, belt 2 years. So the wear items are things like the headphone jack, USB connectors, pedals, seats, straps. So these would be used in our larger room downstairs, and then we could put those in storage. There was a question why we only chose 11. That's how many we can store. So we are looking for space. We could get more in that room, but can't put them up, store them safely.
Gotcha.
Courtney can answer any additional questions if you have.
Yes, sir. Ms. Stewart.
Is this a sole source bid?
It is not a sole source bid.
You have the other bids?
No, they just, through the powers, they just send us the lowest bid.
But they don't tell you who they solicit from or anything like that, or what the range is. You know, if they threw out $60,000, we just take $60,000, but we don't have nothing to compare it to.
No, they do all the negotiating and this. And talking to Frankie, we have used this process for, I think, with the fire department. So he said it would be acceptable by our procurement.
The other question, I know you mentioned about maybe encourage some of our younger people because they don't do some of the classes they can make considered girly. I know typically our younger kids, boys, basketball, football, baseball, how many boys do we have in any of these programs right now? Do we even have them participate in any of them? I know
we do have some of our younger kids who don't play sports that come and either walk on the track or they may work out if they're old enough, kind of thing, or play pickup basketball, but
not in the classes.
But not in the class.
We don't have anybody in our class of younger kids.
We have,
I'm sorry.
Maybe a handful.
But the thing about, I think with this, you could get a group of 10, 11 boys who basically would be in competition against each other, but they're also exercising at the same time, which is what our goal is.
You gonna demonstrate it first?
Well, I think there's an age requirement. I'd be in with the seniors.
Ms. Lockridge?
I have two questions. First, can you give me a sort of an idea of the difference in a spin bike and a stationary bike?
The handlebars can be adjusted to go either up and down or also forward or back. Also, the seat does the same thing, up or down, forward or back. You can really adjust it to fit your needs. And then there's a tension control. You can also put all your weight on your feet, lift your seat off the seat, and really work on your legs. But it's also a street class as well.
Okay. The second question is, you said it had a headphone jack. Does this plug into something like a video and you watching, you know, as you bicycle down the up a mountain or something, and you have the
Fitness classes, we wouldn't need the headphone jacks. But maybe later, if we expand and we put these out for everyone to use, you know, that could be something
But it's possible to do something like that later down the line.
I'm guessing.
It is. I know that they do make bikes that you can actually pick the course you want to ride, kind of thing, and basically you can do that by yourself. And they do that in classes, but you could also have those in the cardio room that would have a screen, and you can sort of pick your route that you want to travel.
Well, I think that we need to vote on this, so I think we need to go ahead and purchase the mowers as well as the spin bikes.
We'll take that as a motion, and Mr. Newton as a second.
Thank you, Mr. Newton.
Yes. Any further discussion? Just for the record, I don't like spin bikes. They're hard. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you.
You don't have to wear your helmet.
That's true. That's true, Bobby. Our next item is request consideration of an ordinance to amend section 66-4A3 of chapter 66 of the Code of the City of Anderson. Ms. McCully.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a clarification of your existing, a section in your existing sanitation ordinance. As you know, when we have a lot of times you have a homeowner, an occupant of a dwelling that may want to do renovations, and that debris will be either placed out on the street for us to pick up, or if it's a large project, excuse me, construction trailer will be provided to put that debris in. This particular amendment is one that simply clarifies if you are doing construction or having construction work done on your building that requires you to have a city building permit, then that construction debris must be removed by your contractor or the person performing the work. So what we're doing with this amendment is distinguishing between when a building permit is required versus when you're just doing a little incidental work. Maybe you're putting a new toilet in, you put your toilet out on the street for us to pick up, or you removing 2 doors in your house and you're putting those out on the street to pick up. So the primary section is the one that is A3 regarding building materials, and it says that construction debris created by a contractor or resulting from work requiring a city building permit shall be removed by the contractor or the person performing the work. You don't put that material on the curb or the right-of-way for the city to dispose of. On the other hand, if it's incidental materials from home projects which don't require a permit and are performed by the person who is living in that house, you may place that debris at the curb for the city to collect it. Now, we do exempt asphalt shingles from that, but this is simply distinguishing between when a permit is required versus incidental building construction. and who is responsible for the disposal of that material, whether it's the person performing the work or whether it's the city who's going to pick it up. And the staff would recommend approval of this ordinance on first reading so that this is not confusing for our citizens or for contractors.
So in essence, it's just cleaning up that ordinance.
Just cleans up that language so that it's not in a gray area.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Mr. Roberts, Jeff Roberts?
I would like to see it strengthened even further. And the reason I say that, there are many times homeowners are allowed to do their work without a contractor. I mean, for example, a homeowner can serve as their own contractor, and there are certain things that are allowed without a permit, such as, I mean, for example, cabinetry, floor covering,
Correct.
those sort of things. And quite often, floor coverings can have hazardous materials, asbestos, for example, and that is a regulated hazardous waste. And I generally have a problem with anybody, whether it's a contractor or a homeowner, putting construction debris out on the curb. So I would like to take a second look at this and possibly even strengthen it and possibly even delay it for a future vote, because I think there's probably an opportunity here to really clean this up and make it even more meaningful for all of us. But I'm opposed to, just as a blanket statement, construction and demolition debris put on the curb. So I recommend that we maybe rethink this and actually bring up maybe a committee setting where we can discuss it further. I'm all in favor of cleaning up the language. I think it could be strengthened.
Jeff, do you think or would you be agreeable to, I guess our next meeting would be
December,
29th?
the 26th.
26th.
Yes.
26?
November 26th.
I hope.
And I was going to say, I don't know, with it being a first reading, maybe we can get some input from council, yourself, Ms. Chapman. I mean, is that doable? Go ahead.
You're right. City Attorney Frankie McClain certainly worked on this amendment, and I'm sure would be happy for us to talk further about that. You can certainly choose to pass it on first reading with the understanding that we've got some more homework to do, or you can delay it and we can move forward with it at the next meeting with more information. Either way, won't make any difference.
I guess the other question would be, is it, and I guess I'll ask that to the management team, is it a burning issue? That
Delaying it won't make any difference, so we're fine giving it some additional consideration on making sure that when we do amend it, that it has the right ingredients to make it helpful for those who enforce it, as well as those who need to be governed by it out in the public.
Well, if I don't hear any objection, why don't we just not take any action on it right now and just take a step back, and since it's not something urgent, it's important, but it's not urgent. Go right ahead.
One thing that you could probably look at, because I know a lot of times we end up having people who are contractors that may be doing work without a permit over a weekend, and that's when a lot of this debris gets put out onto the street. And that's maybe one area that I think we need to look at a little bit more diligently. So,
thank you, and I would suggest that we make comments to the management team as we think of them. I would say people like me who can't do anything, there's no worry on me doing anything, Jeff, so I definitely have to use a contractor.
Well, I might put a window in my house. Now, I think I'll put the panes out there on the street, Jeff, for you to pick up.
All right.
Me, Dr. Thompson, I'll come get that window.
We'll move on to item number 5. And that item is request consideration of an ordinance authorizing the execution of a deed to convey real real estate located on McCully Street in the city of Anderson. Ms. McCall.
We have with us tonight Erica Kraft, our Community Development Division Director, and this is an opportunity for us to see some additional, hopefully some additional development on McCully Street. If some of you may remember, several years ago, we worked with the Nehemiah Community Revitalization Corporation to build some new single-family houses on McCully Street. And Erica is going to share with you a little bit about the fact that those houses are occupied, and it's been a successful venture thus far, and we have an opportunity to perhaps create some more affordable housing in that area. Erica?
Thank you, Ms. McConnell. We've been approached by Nehemiah Community Corporation. They are seeking funding from the South Carolina State Housing Finance Development Authority to their small renters program to construct housing that are affordable. They will remain rental for a specified period of time, at least a minimum of 20 years. They would like for us to donate 3 parcels that we own so that it would enable them to include in their application funding for 8 units. And those 8 units would provide housing for persons at 30% the area median family income, 50%, as well as 60%. And the rents will be affordable based upon the fair market rents for this area. And we would also have those tenants to receive a utility allowance. As Ms. McConnell stated, in the past, 10 units were constructed, and those have remained rental and will continue to do so for a period of 20 years. Their application to state housing is due in March, and by us donating these properties, it will strengthen their application by showing support, and they are trying to show other in-kind support.
Thank you, ma'am. Comments, questions? Ms. Stewart, and then Dr. Thompson.
Just a quick question for clarification, and I think this is a great project. I know Dr. Thompson got to be proud. I know Nehemiah's done a great venture down on McCully Street. The houses really look good, but just a point of clarification. I know we're talking about donating city-owned property, and I know in the past we've had 2 instances, one recently on the east side where we had a city-owned property. We had to advertise it to make sure no one else was interested before we donated that piece of property. And I think there was also one that the church over in Dr. Thompson's ward was wanting a piece of land or something, and we had to make sure we had to go through some legal ramifications before we could just donate the property. And I just want to make sure what makes this different. Do we have to advertise this as well, just to make sure no one else comes to the table? Because I know it has been set a precedent that we had to do that in the past on other properties.
I do recall that occurring in the past. I think Franklin reviewed it, if I'm speaking correctly. The regulations for CDBG, if these were properties acquired with the use of CDBG dollars, it does require that disposal of the property meet the use for a national objective, and they have 3 main national objectives that you can either meet by doing housing that benefits low to moderate income persons in housing, or it could be for a national objective of removal of slum and blight, or third would be a national urgent matter if it was a disaster and you needed to do something. So constructing housing for affordable people would meet the objective of low moderate housing national objective, and I think he reviewed some regulations and felt that we'd be able to dispose of.
And these were bought with CDBG funds, these lots?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think that's the key, because the other,
Correct.
I think, were just property that the city owned that wasn't purchased with CDBG dollars.
That's correct.
I think that's what the difference is. That's what I want to make sure, just clarify.
Dr. Thompson.
I guess I want to say I'm really thrilled about this. I hope we can do more than 3 houses.
Actually, it would be 8 units.
That's
Okay.
10.
If you ride down McCully 9, if you have ridden down McCully many years ago, you can see how it has really developed. It's beautiful there. And Nehemiah did those houses So across the street, I think that's what you're talking about, the new property, Erica.
Yes, ma'am.
It's gonna really make a difference in going down that street. And when you talk about affordable housing, that is really needed in our city. I was reading about Greenville and some things they were doing there downtown because so many folk had been pushed out of downtown Greenville because they couldn't afford to live there anymore. So they're building these affordable houses, and Tony, these houses are being developed, the city itself is donating this land for these houses to be built downtown Greenville, affordable housing. So I think we're very fortunate in that we have this land, and it's just sitting there, and for it to be developed, I think it's a wonderful thing, and I look forward to it.
And this will continue to provide affordable rentals that is much needed for the area, as Homes of Hope has
Yes.
constructed units at the 61 Hill site. There are a combination of homeowners that eventually will be part of that development, but their first phase has included affordable rental units. The rents for these units will range anywhere from $519 to $716, and again, they will have had a utility allowance applied and bring it to that amount.
Good information. Anything else, Ms. Lockridge?
Does Nehemiah Corporation, do they have anything like a rent-to-own process with?
They have talked about doing projects like that here, but as far as I'm aware, their projects that have been developed here have all been rental.
Oh,
But that first phase of McCully Street, after the 20-year period, I do recall the former director, Tom Faulkner, hoping to allow for those units to be converted for home ownership. That was the reason why the units were built with specifications in the developer's agreement to even allow for later a drive that would allow for a garage to be built, and why we specified building foundation instead of a slab. And there were certain stipulations in the developer's agreement because we were looking ahead when homes converted to home ownership.
I'll say this to you. I think you have to feel good about what you do because it's helping people that need housing to get it, and I think it's a wonderful thing. So props to you, okay?
Thank you. To you all for the support, and
Anybody?
hope that we can definitely get funding for this project.
Well, I think we need to go ahead and request the ordinance to give this land to Nehemiah Corporation.
Second.
Have a first by Ms. Lockridge, second by Mayor Pro Tem.
Quick question. Nehemiah is not funded. What happens to this land? Is it going to revert back to the city or what?
It says in 3 years, if it's not developed, that's in the agreement,
They would come back,
in the developer's agreement.
but they would maintain the property as far as the grass cutting during those 3-year period. All right, thank you.
It's a good deal.
Thank you.
Having no further questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Our 6th and 7th items of new business go hand in hand, and let's get them out on the floor. And I would think that both meet the requirements of the executive session.
Yes, sir.
I think we just briefly be in an executive session, but I'd like to go ahead and get the descriptions out of the way. And the first one is request consideration of economic development incentive agreement between the City of Anderson and Rogue Holding LLC on behalf of West Point Home Incorporated.
I'll tell you just a little bit about that, and then we'll cover item 7 as well. Obviously, these two, items 6 and 7, this one on behalf of West Point Home is the property at 201 North Main Street. That is the home, the office space for West Point Home Incorporated. They have 15,000 square feet on the 2nd and 3rd floors of that building to accommodate office space and the creation of 65 new jobs, and a total investment of $1.6 million. And this proposed agreement that is on the table tonight is based upon their capital investment and the new revenue that's generated by this project. So as Kimberly would tell you, there are eligibility requirements for our Economic Development Incentive Program. It needs to be located in a designated area, and it is within the TIF. It's also a corporate headquarters. Another category of the criteria for participation is research and development, high technology growth business. Then we talked about the creation of jobs, which was 65 new jobs. And our program has a threshold agreement, meaning that your investment needs to exceed the $300,000 investment, and 50% of that can count towards your physical improvements. So we would like to discuss the fact that there is an incentive grant agreement on the table. That's what we're talking about tonight. That qualifies for your executive session regarding the discussion of matters relating to proposed location expansion, provision of services, encouraging location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area that we serve.
Thank you. And item 7.
Item 7 is similar. They're different in that one is an incentive grant agreement. That was West Point Home. The item number 7 is an economic development agreement between the City of Anderson and what we are calling Project Spindle. It is likewise the developer is requesting financial assistance for us in return for this being an expansion project that includes new construction, and that new construction will accommodate the expanded operation and 80 new jobs. The estimated cost of that development is $2.5 million. Again, these are similar in the fact that we're talking about capital investment and new revenue and jobs. And in this case, the revenues resulting from this development are estimated to exceed $300,000 in a 5-year period, and the fact that it does create 80 new jobs. Again, this fits the criteria of the executive session item, and the staff would recommend that we discuss both of these in your executive session.
Thank you. Let's do administrative briefing before we make a motion to go into executive session.
We're on our calendar. We are certainly approaching the holiday season. We have on the 15th, which is Thursday, the Southeast Anderson Task Force is meeting, but this is their, like a lot of our community groups, this is their Thanksgiving meal, so they don't need lengthy reports from our staff. It's just an opportunity to gather and fellowship together. That's at the Hannah Westside Career Campus. Mark your calendars for the 16th on Friday, where we will have the opening of Holiday Ice, and the rec division staff and our special events staff have really geared up for a grand opening Friday night. Our sponsor, as you all know, is County Bank, and the grand opening starts at 6 p.m. There will be some special activities, including sleigh rides. We'll have a professional skater, Jackie or J.C. Boyd will perform, and they're doing something a little different this year. They're going to have some public contests. One is curling, which you all might remember from the Olympics. I don't know that we see that a lot around here, but it's fun to watch. And they'll also test your hockey puck skills. So there might be some prizes that people can win just for their participation. So Bobby says if you think you are, or you might be good with a hockey stick or a curling stone, or you just want to watch, this would be the event to be at. And then they'll have Dollar Skate Night will follow those opening festivities. Thanksgiving, of course, is the 22nd, and our offices will be closed on Thanksgiving Day and the Friday after Thanksgiving. And then our tree lighting festivities happen on Friday the 30th at 6 p.m. And we'll have a chance to talk about this again, but the Christmas parade will be Sunday, December the 2nd at 3 p.m. So we're certainly in the throes of the holiday season, as you can tell by our calendar.
Moving that way really quick. Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. First by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Jeff Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand not adjourned, but in the Second by Mr. John Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We have a couple of action items in regards to new business, items 6 and 7. And the first one is request consideration of an economic development incentive agreement between the City of Anderson and Rogue Holding LLC on behalf of West Point Homes Incorporated. And we need a recap?
Yes. This particular project pertains to 201 North Main Street, and it's the development of that property. The particular criteria that this project meets is that number one, the eligibility requirement for providing an incentive grant agreement is that it's located in a downtown TIF district. It could be identified as corporate headquarters. It increases, by virtue of the investment, it increases the taxable value by approximately $800,000. It also generates additional revenue in the form of water tap, water capacity fees, building permits, business license fees. It also generates approximately $51,500 in an increase in annual city taxes, and very importantly, it creates 65 jobs. Those are the criteria for consideration, and the in specific elements of the incentive grant agreement are that it's based upon the amount of the capital investment and the new revenue that's generated, and that the amount of the grant is $200,000 that will be paid in $40,000 increments over 5 years beginning in 2019. And we would certainly recommend approval of that incentive grant agreement between the City of Anderson and Rogue Holdings, LLC.
Thank you. I'll open it for questions, discussion. Farber?
I'm excited that somebody's investing in our downtown and bringing new jobs and refurbishing some of our older buildings. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Second.
First by Mr. Harbin, second by Mr. Lockridge. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Our last item is item number 7, a request consideration of an ordinance approving an economic development agreement between the City of Anderson and Project Spindle. Ms. McCully?
And we're very proud to be able to bring these two investment opportunities to you tonight. And this one is similar to the one we just discussed, but it's a little bit different in that this is an economic development agreement between the City of Anderson and what we're calling Project Spindle. It likewise has the benefit of being able to have an expansion of an existing business. It is adding 80 jobs, and it has the ability to, as well, to retain existing jobs that are at this particular location. The revenues from this proposed new development are estimated to exceed $300,000 in a 5-year period, and certainly we would recognize a substantial financial increase based upon those new jobs. In return for this, the economic development agreement that is recommended is that we would pay a total amount of $345,000 payable over a 5-year period. And again, that is based upon the expansion of an existing business, the added jobs, and the retention, keeping that particular property development and business located inside the city. So we're proud to bring that to you this evening. Those grant revenues would be would come out of our general fund.
Thank you. Ms. Boyce, comments? Ms. Chapman?
I too would like to show the gratitude of the expansion and continued expansion of this particular project in the city, and their connection with the city, so, and the 80 jobs that it will create. So I would make a motion that we accept it as presented.
Have a first and a second. I lost the second. Mr. Jeff Rob, Mr. Kyle Newton. Have a first by Mr. Chapman, second by Mr. Newton. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Kimberly, Mary Haley. Pass this unanimously.
On the first.
Yeah, pass unanimous on the first reading.
Yes.
On the second page, it says first reading, I think. Big day, big night. Appreciate it. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Have first by, I'm losing the names down here, Mr. Newton. Second by Mr. John Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Stand adjourned.